cases being recorded there stand at 32. Well, there are 24 active cases. 3 have been recorded as deceased. 5 are the recovered number of cases. Let's cross over to Uganda, whereby they have a total number of 53 total cases. The 53 cases are the active cases. There are no recorded numbers of the deceased or the recovered cases. Let's look at different. We cross over to Mozambique, where the total numbers stand at 20 total cases. 18 are the active cases and 2 are the recovered cases. Well, now to kick us off, we cross over to the Democratic Republic of Congo, whereby the total number being recorded stand at 215 total cases. 182 are the active cases, and 20 are the number of the fatalities being recorded in the country. 13 are the recovered cases. Well, these are some of the stories that we shall be looking into later on in the bulletin. For now, let's cross over and take a look at the highlights.
We have continued to test and managed to test some 504 samples. Some 5 have tested positive for the coronavirus disease. We now have 189 Kenyans confirmed as positive.
5 more test positive for COVID-19 as 10 people are discharged after recovering from the disease. Unusual times as Christians celebrate Good Friday at their homes in the wake of coronavirus outbreak. And Kenya reaches out to China over alleged mistreatment of its nationals living in the Asian country.
Thank you for making time for us here at KBC Channel 1. Now, to kick us off, 10 more people will be discharged from quarantine after testing negative for coronavirus infection. Friday's development brings the total number of recoveries in the country to 22. At a time, 5 more people were confirmed to have contracted COVID-19. Testing of Kenyans for the disease is said to go a notch higher after delivery of electronic kits that will enhance the country's daily testing and diagnostic capabilities.
Friday brought with it some good news as Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe announced the recovery of 10 more coronavirus patients, the highest number of recoveries in a single day so far.
For the first time in a day, we released more people than we took in. The individuals have tested negative twice, and that brings in a total of 22 individuals who have recovered from the disease.
And as the 10 await discharge, 5 more tested positive for the virus.
These 5 people are all Kenyan nationals, and only one of them has a history of travel from the UAE. 3 of the cases are in Mombasa, while Nairobi and Nyandarua have 1 each.
The minister, however, cautioning Kenyans against laxity as the number may increase by the end of April as community testing had not commenced.
The results that we have been relaying to you here on a daily basis are basically results from our quarantine sites and a few cases that are picked by the rapid response teams. We don't know what is going to happen, whether the figures will match or not, taking into consideration that also the measures that we have undertaken could also work in our favor.
Those with severe pneumonia will also be subjected to screening to avoid missing any case. Testing for the virus, which is key in curbing its spread, has however been boosted by delivery of electronic kits that can handle hundreds of cases in a single day.
We have given priority to testing of all our medical personnel, which is what we have started today.
Equipping health workers is also a priority, and the Ministry of Health has disclosed that over 100,000 healthcare workers have received training on COVID-19. In the meantime, the number of health workers is set to increase as county governments expedite hiring health professionals.
We have consulted with the Public Service Board and agreed that this hiring of the 5,000 health workers had been agreed with the Council of Governors that this activity will take place, but it will be conducted by the county service boards.
Ministry of Health still projects that by the end of April 2020, there is a possibility that the number of confirmed coronavirus cases might be 10,000. Given that community testing has not kicked off and the current focus has been on those in the quarantine facilities. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Well, thank you so much, Nancy Okware, for that report. Now, moving on, efforts to cushion Kenyans from the adverse effects of COVID-19 outbreak have intensified across the country, with state and non-state actors taking proactive steps. The COVID-19 Emergency Fund Friday received a generous material donation comprising of assorted foodstuffs from the Hindu Council of Kenya to be distributed over 1 month to households in Nairobi's informal settlements. The establishment of the COVID-19 Emergency Fund was meant to mobilize resources for emergency response towards containing the spread, effects and impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. The fund would today receive a major boost, and following the donation of an assortment of foodstuff valued at 100 million shillings, the food consignment mobilized by the Hindu Council was handed over to the fund chairperson Jane Karuku and Secretary Kennedy Kihara at the Nyayo National Stadium, and will provide immediate food relief to vulnerable households in Korogosho, Mukuru, Kibera, Kawangware, Kangemi, Dandora, among other informal settlements in the Nairobi metropolitan area.
They have been given all the assurances that the chair has given you just now, ensuring that all the systems are in place to ensure that this food is donated to where it's needed the most.
So they've given us this morning 100 million worth of food, and we will work together with them and government to make sure that it gets to the right people. We have stringent measures of accountability within the fund mechanism. We are working with Ernst & Young to make sure that we are running our programs very effectively and efficient.
Elsewhere, Bomet County government has received 816 litres of sanitizers from the national government. Bomet Governor Hilary Barchok, who received the consignment, says the items will be shared among health facilities to be used by health and medical staff.
It will go assisting maybe those groups that we perceive to be exposed so much, people working in our fast stages, in our markets, and also our facilities.
Meanwhile, Uasin Gishu County Governor Jackson Mandago is calling on area residents to observe guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health to avert possible spread of the pandemic in the area.
Na mimi nataka kuhakikishia kaunti hii hakuna mtu atakufa njaa. Tunaweka mikakati, tunapanga na tunaangalia. Serikali iko na machinery ya kupima. Wakati mambo imekuwa ngumu kabisa, watu wamelala bila kukula kitu, mkono hajakutana na mdomo, hapo ndio utaona serikali inafika kwa mlango.
And Baringo County Government, through the Ministry of Public Health, has commenced fumigation of Kabarnet town in a bid to stop the spread of coronavirus in the county. The fumigation, which began last night, will see all major towns including Kabartonjo, Marigat, Eldama Ravine, Mogotio and Chemalingot fumigated at least once a week.
Removing corona out of our community is prevention, and we fumigating so that if there is any virus that is hanging around in the marketplaces or in the town, we're able to remove it.
The county government of Wajir has moved to assure area residents that the Wajir Regional Referral Laboratory has the capacity to test for coronavirus. Wajir Governor Ambassador Mohammed Abdi Mohammed says plans were underway to acquire reagents to test for COVID-19, adding that the facility has the capacity to even serve the neighboring counties of Garissa and Mandera.
Every disease can be identified with a particular reagent. So if we get those reagents, or some of them we are going to buy, others will be provided by the national government. If that happens, we have been promised that they will bring those reagents. Then we don't have to go to Nairobi.
Finally, children homes and orphanages continue to suffer the brunt of the adverse effects of coronavirus outbreak, having to deal with shortage of basic commodities as well-wishers keep off from visiting the facilities. Such is the situation of Tabarak Children's Home in Kisauni, which houses 100 children, whose directors have now resorted to food rationing, with its director Aisha Ramathan now says is contemplating shutting it down.
On this day, the home was lucky after the Bohra community donated maize flour, cooking oil, sanitizers, and masks to the vulnerable children, with the organization's director Zolka Jivanji saying they were touched by the plight of children at the facility. The children home houses mostly orphans whose parents died following the inter-clan clashes that hit Tana River County in 2012.
Wito langu kubwa kwa serikali. Hawa watoto ambao tuko nao ni wetu sote na tuko nao majumbani. Kwa hivyo tunaomba waige mfano. Hawa ndugu zetu, kaka zetu ni community ya jamii na wamejitolelea kufika.
Now, the Kenyan government has raised concern over the treatment of its nationals in China in the wake of a surge in racial discrimination against Africans in the country. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs is, however, assuring Kenyans in China of security and wants victims of racial abuse to get in touch with the Kenyan embassy in Beijing.
Following the decision by China government to undertake stringent testing of coronavirus disease on foreigners, cases of racial discrimination and abuse of foreigners by locals have been reported. Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, through the embassy in Beijing, has expressed its reservation with the ongoings in China, expressing concerns to Chinese authorities over security of Kenyans in China. In a statement, the Foreign Affairs Ministry says it has received assurances from the Chinese embassy in Nairobi that the government of China takes the situation seriously and that local authorities in Guangzhou have been tasked to take immediate action to safeguard the legitimate rights of concerned Africans. All Kenyans in China have been advised to remain in touch with the embassy in case of any challenge. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Now, on emerging issues courtesy of COVID-19, the advent of Easter holiday went ahead almost quietly in places of worship as faithful stayed away in light of coronavirus outbreak. Unlike previous years and normal tradition, churches did not open for Good Friday services as the government's directive banning gatherings continues to bite. The obtaining situation forcing majority of Kenyans to observe the beginning of this Christian festival from the comfort of their homes in a unique way.
Good Friday has over the years seen the Christian faithful in their numbers throng houses of worship. Some rituals such as procession held by the Catholic remain synonymous with this day. For Christians, this is the day to commemorate the persecution, crucifixion, and death of Jesus Christ. But this year's festival will no doubt be different. Governments all over the world, Kenya included, have put an end to social gatherings. In Mombasa, Holy Ghost Cathedral failed to conduct an Easter Mass. Presiding Archbishop Martin Kivuva urged Kenyans to continue praying for the country and particularly for the pandemic to end. He, however, noted that the usual feeding program targeting the less fortunate will go on as usual.
Ushirikiano wetu na kanisa wameanza Kibera, kulenga familia kadhaa, kupata labda chakula cha mwezi mzima. Hapa kuna watu wamehusiana na wengine, wakaanza kusaidiana na washikadau na parokia au watu wanaoishi sehemu ya Bangladesh. Wakatenga familia kadhaa ambao naona hizi isiposaidiwa kutakuwa na shida. Kwa hivyo
he wants health workers in the front line to battle COVID-19 well equipped.
Isiwaache bila protective gear kuanzia wauguzi wa chini mpaka wa juu, kwamba wasija wakaadhirika huku wanahudumia watu kwa kujitolea wengi wao.
At Godkweru in Migori County, the congregation at Legio Maria Church will miss their annual Easter celebrations for the first time since 1963. The faithful, who usually congregate twice annually, will have to celebrate at home with their families while following church proceedings on television or stream online.
Kwa wakati huu, hii sherehe ya Pasaka inakuanga vizuri kama Wakristo wote wanasherekea, lakini imefungwa. Na sasa kama kanisa hatuwezi enda kinyume na sheria ya serikali ambayo
halijaribiwa sawasawa na sisi katika mambo yote.
In Baringo, Catechist George Abiero transformed his home to resemble a church as he ushered his family to commemorate the persecution, crucifixion, death and resurrection of Jesus Christ.
Mahali pangu pa kwanza pa kufundisha imani ni katika familia yangu. Na hii ndio sababu ni muhimu ama nimeona umuhimu tuweze kujiunga na familia yangu katika kutafakari juu ya fumbo hili la imani yetu.
Finally, a section of residents in Kiambu County called on Kenyans to adhere to the government's directive to restrain from social gatherings, especially during Easter season, so as to curb the spread of coronavirus that continues to wreak havoc across the globe.
Hayo yote hayawezekani kwa sababu vile serikali inatuelekeza tukijiweka katika sherehe za kuingiana hapa na pale tutaendelea kusambaza ugonjwa huu. Tumeambiwa tutulie kwenye nyumba zetu, tutulie ili tuweze kusimamisha usambazaji wa ugonjwa huu. Kwa hivyo hakuna lolote ambalo linaendelea ambalo silo la kawaida kwa sababu ugonjwa huu uko na lazima sisi kama wananchi tuweze kujitunza, kujiweka kwa njia ambayo tunaelekezwa na wafanyikazi wa mahospitali yetu.
Kwa sababu hakuna watu wanazunguka na msalaba juu ya hiyo mambo ya corona. Sasa si tuko tu makazini juu hakuna kwa kwenda hata church tuwezi enda. Sasa tu tumeamua kusherehekea tukiwa tu hapa kwa soko.
Isa kamili ningekuwa St. Francis of Assisi Town ya msalaba, lakini leo nitakaa tu kwa kazi sababu dunia nzima haiendi popote.
And still on the same, it was a departure from the past in Mombasa as most beaches and hotels remain deserted in the wake of threats posed by COVID-19 outbreak. And as our coast-based reporter Anboro reports, the coastal town of Mombasa was Friday a ghost town in spite of the weekend being an Easter holiday.
The sound of ocean waves quite audible with those who would crowd the beaches, keeping off amid strict guidelines issued by the government to contain the spread of the COVID-19 disease. There is no one in the vicinity as would have been the norm during Easter celebrations. Beach hotels, on the other hand, remained closed with no sign of life. Along the beaches, a handful of beach operators stand bemused, here to reminisce on the fortunes of the good old times when their business was booming.
Si kama mwaka jana, mwaka uliopita hapa time kama hizi sasa hiyo wakati wa sikukuu ya Pasaka kungekuwa kumefurika watu wengi, hawangejali weather kama ni wa mvua ama jua kali, lakini kwa sababu ya huu ugonjwa wa coronavirus hakuna wageni kabisa, lakini tunaomba Mungu mambo yatakuwa sawa.
And despite suffering huge losses, the operators remained supportive of ongoing efforts by the government aimed at containing the spread of the COVID-19.
Pia tunashukuru kwa sababu pia serikali imetilia mkazo watu wakae nyumbani, watu watahadhari, watu wakae umbali wa mita moja, watu waoshe mikono, watu wavae mask, na imetuathiri lakini hatuna la kufanya.
Along the streets of Mombasa town that are often dotted with tourists who flock the area during Easter, it is minimal activity with a few people around minding their own business.
This is the current situation of beaches along the coastal strip. Today is Good Friday, and revelers would have filled these beaches relaxing and enjoying themselves. But due to the pandemic, the beaches remain deserted. From Nyali Beach in Mombasa County, I am Anburu.
President Uhuru Kenyatta expressed his optimism in the measures adopted by the government to mitigate the spread of the coronavirus. In his Easter message, the head of state said that inasmuch as this year's Easter period will be marked differently, Kenyans should observe the spirit and intention of Easter and the message inherent on the resurrection of Jesus Christ.
In his Easter message to the nation, President Uhuru Kenyatta expressed his optimism in the measures adopted by the government to mitigate the spread of coronavirus, hoping that they will end the suffering caused by the global pandemic. He thanked health workers and security teams who have been at the front line in managing the health crisis. He pointed out that this year's Easter period, which is often celebrated with family and close friends, will be marked differently due to the preventive and safety measures put in place by the government. He said that the circumstances, however, should not blind us to the spirit and intention of Easter and the message inherent in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. He urged all Kenyans, both at home and abroad, to reflect on the resurrection story and remember that all things, even suffering, come to an end through unity and faith. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Oma.
Now moving on, the unprecedented move by the government to pursue punishment against persons defying precautionary guidelines meant to contain the spread of coronavirus continue to draw mixed responses. Questions, however, abound on whether a gazette notice spelling out heavy penalties, including a fine and jail term on those who defy the order, is constitutional. Safin Acheng Oma breaks this down.
7 have succumbed to the novel coronavirus in the country as 189 test positive for the contagion, the situation prompting the government to issue strict directives to curb its spread. One such directive is making it mandatory for all Kenyans to don masks and maintain social distance while in public. Through a recently published Gazette notice, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe indicated that every person who is in a public place during the restriction period shall maintain physical distance of not less than 1 meter from the next person and use proper masks that cover the person's mouth and nose.
We are at the Ngara area in Nairobi. We have been here for about 2 hours. And what we have seen is that a majority of Kenyans still have not taken it upon themselves to observe the precautionary measures put up by the government to stop the spread of coronavirus, such as putting on a face mask. What a majority do not know is that not adhering to these regulations can attract a fine of not exceeding 20,000 or a jail term not exceeding 6 months.
Those who fail to adhere to this order risk sanctions from the state. Clear as it is, the question of whether the order will dive into legal headwinds arises.
The Public Health Act itself also gives the minister the powers to make legislation or to make such a declaration to be able to handle this kind of a crisis. You find that with those powers under Section 36 and 37 of the Public Health Act.
As spelled out by the provisions within the civil law, there is a concern as to whether the implementation of this Gazette notice will have far-reaching ramifications on the citizens' rights.
A right is supposed to make sure that all of us enjoy that right. We are not supposed to enjoy a right at the expense of the neighbor or other citizens.
The law allows for imposition of certain limitations to some of these freedoms in a situation where you have a country that is faced with this kind of an emergency, especially of a public health nature or maybe other natural disaster.
But is the government in a position to institute legal proceedings?
It is a law. Even a subsidiary law is a law. If you go against it and it is there to ensure that it protects you, basically the government will take action. Yeah, you will go in and basically you will be taken to court.
Unless it is a case where it can be seen that somebody is willfully or negligently or deliberately violating these regulations or in blatant violation of those regulations, then in those situations, maybe the government will have to employ punitive measures. But I think it is a matter something which the law enforcers will have to deal with this matter on a case-by-case basis.
This very question continues to shape public discourse.
Naona ni fair venye serikali wamesema hiyo fine kwa sababu ni maisha yetu kama raia wa Kenya. Hatuwezi linganisha na hiyo ugonjwa.
Ili kutushika kutuweka ndani kwa sababu hatujavalia mask itakuwa ni dhuluma na itakuwa ni kukosa utu. Kwa hivyo mimi naomba serikali kama itafika mahali tunafungwa basi tufungwe kama tushapewa mask.
As the government steps up its efforts to mitigate the spread of coronavirus, the big question now remains, will taking the legal action to help Kenyans adhere to these guidelines bear any fruit? For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Oma.
Well, I do hope that you're taking the necessary precautionary measures. And on that note, we take a short break, still more ahead.
What has been your greatest challenge as a parent during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic situation? As we wait for the pandemic to be over at home, COVID-19 has given us an opportunity to reconnect with our children. Join Nakada during Good Morning Kenya Breakfast Show as we discuss positive parenting. Remember, parenting is all about you. Nakada, for a nation free from alcohol and drug abuse.
Next on.
What profession can I have that can make use of that? And I felt accountancy. Not cut for too long, for very, very short, because I had my timeline as to when I was going to get married by the end of the year. So within a month, I was married. Things started going south because of some decisions.
Talked about emotional abuse. It is the worst because it's not visible.
Most important, to marry your friend, somebody who you could spend hours with talking on the phone.
You need to take time and understand what happened in your...
So you don't get married again and get divorced. Otherwise you become a serial...
Welcome back. Now let's continue the coverage where the impact of COVID-19 continues to be felt across the globe, with its adverse effects presenting a headache not just to the government but to the business community as well. Our reporter Caroline Kamau engaged the deaf community operating small businesses within Nairobi and documented their tribulations in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic.
COVID-19 has hit businesses hard in the country, but have you paused to wonder just how much harder this is for people with hearing impairment? I met up with Sarah Omamwa, a deaf trader here at a bus station, and she shares her challenges.
Sign language is a visual and expressive language. One has to rely on the signer as well as looking at a person's mouth and facial expression to communicate. So it becomes difficult even for me to conduct this interview with Sarah Omwanga, who is a deaf trader, while she's wearing her mask.
I have to lower my mask because how do the deaf communicate? Through sign language. They have to see my mouth, and sometimes I ask for help from my hearing friends to come and help me choose the colors they want, then I give.
And that is her biggest challenge with her customers in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Sarah, a mother of one, lives in Rongai and says on average she has to spend 300 shillings to commute to and from her home. Before the coronavirus pandemic struck, she said she was able to sell to about 100 customers in a day. Today, if she's lucky, she will get about 10 customers, but even selling to them is a challenge.
Before, I used to serve about 50 or more customers, but now I serve about 20 customers a day.
A few meters away is Ruth Mutunge, a resident of Mathare Phase 1. She's also a trader who sold carrier bags before, but had to adjust to face masks after the pandemic because she made minimal returns.
So I decided better start making the face masks. I tailor them and then I sell them each at 50 shillings every day. I sell about 40, 50 face masks.
She hoped to get relief from the money that has been set aside to help persons with disability, but due to the communication barrier, she was not able to get any assistance from her chief.
I was the only deaf person. Other people were writing their name. So when I wrote my name and gave, I asked, where do I give? I'm deaf, so how can I communicate? The chief, who is a woman, kept quiet the whole day. I kept asking, and I got tired and left. They avoided me. Is it because I'm deaf?
Despite their obvious challenges, they are appreciative of the government efforts to include a sign language interpreter in all the government briefings and coronavirus-related messaging, which has helped them understand the various guidelines. Ruth and Sarah are among about 7.4 million people living with some form of hearing impairment in the country, and hope that the government can be more proactive in offering solutions that also cushion them from the hardships presented by the coronavirus pandemic. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Thank you so much, Caroline Kamau, for that report. Now, the coronavirus outbreak has hit most businesses hard, with some traders are forced to innovate to eke a living. Such is the case of David Masharia, a veteran photographer who has been forced to embrace emerging technologies to survive the COVID-19 pandemic. Sarafina Robi has this report.
The COVID-19 pandemic is disrupting global economy, with businesses taking a major hit, with just a handful of traders benefiting from the financial mayhem. Friday morning, we arrive at David Masharia's house, now converted into a studio, and find him preparing a cup of tea, ready to kick off his day. He is an established photographer with 2 studios in the capital, including a photography school with students from across Africa. With the advent of COVID-19, however, things have changed.
First of all, we got confused because the business was doing so well. Like for me, I had the student. We had an intake that during the April intake, we had students who were coming actually to learn photography, and it was kind of shock because we were like, what do we do next? And actually we cancelled like 3 classes that we had.
His usual busy schedule between events has been cut short with the cancellation of events.
So we actually postponed like around 4 weddings. Yeah, that's people had already actually settled. We are doing their work for them. We also had corporate events. They had to postpone. So, and this is where we earn our living.
During these uncertain times, he has to find new ways of surviving.
This is the best time I realize I have to strategize my business, because I think I've been too busy all my life, where that I've been doing a lot of business. Every day you wake up for a new challenge, But now I have the time to strategize and plan some of the products that we have in the business, how best can we improve them.
While the novel coronavirus continues to disrupt industries in the globe, artists have not been exempted. David Masharia, an established photographer, has now opted to online services so as to get to reach his students who are spread across Africa.
We have Zoom, we have Facebook Live. So I've been doing my classes here in the house.
With almost 80% of his activities cut down, how is he able to pay for the rental space of his studios?
So we are still waiting to have a meeting with them so that we can see how best we can go about this, whether we still pay the same length we pay, or they give us a discount, or they can waive.
At his Village Market studios, it is a grim outlook.
Ni Easter bwana. Hakuna kazi na Easter tunakuanga tumejaa hapa.
Kuna mmoja anakuja.
Okay.
Kitu allowed saa 10 hapa.
That's good.
Yeah.
This is the life of most of his kind, including those who ply their trade at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. They have become accustomed to this as they struggle to adapt to the latest challenge, that is COVID-19 pandemic. Here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, hundreds of Kenyans normally throng this region to have their memories captured. But as of today, COVID-19 has come with new tides, leaving just a few distraught photographers on the scene with no activities going on. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robi.
Well, thank you so much, Sarafina Robi, for that report. Now, still on COVID-19, the country's fight against coronavirus could be jeopardized by widespread sale of low-quality and uncertified face masks. A spot check by Channel 1 shows that these personal protective equipment are being sold to unsuspecting members of the public, thereby defeating the very purpose for which they were recommended. This is an issue that has also attracted the attention of clinical officers who are demanding a purge on their sale if efforts to curb the spread of coronavirus must succeed. Gladys Mungai has the report.
Sale of masks, one of the protective gears recommended to boost the fight against COVID-19, is becoming a common spectacle in the streets. Yet questions now emerge regarding their quality, and which, according to healthcare professionals, might be counterproductive in this war.
Some of these people who are rocking these masks have classical symptoms of COVID-19. So our biggest worry is how safe is our Nairobi people who are supposed to put on these masks as by the directive given, Yet people selling these masks have not been tested, have not been taken through the simple sanitization criteria. Yet everyone, and we are not even sure of the qualities of masks which are being sold in our streets. This is a big concern because now it will be the logic why they were supposed to be used in the first place. If we don't ensure that we have sterilized masks, those people who are selling them either are tested and trained on how these masks are supposed to be sold and how these masks are supposed to be handled.
Indeed, our spot check along various city streets paints a grim picture of face masks in circulation, but whose levels of standard remain a misery. What's more, yes, they could be of certified and of good quality, but their handling might be damaging.
Hatutakubali watu wetu waendelee hizi maski tunasita barakoa siendelee kuuzwa kwa streets kwa njia zenye ni tatanishi zaidi. Serikali isipochunga tutakuwa tunaeneza huu ugonjwa zaidi kwa kutumia hizi barakoa, wamesema, kwa sababu wale wanazoziuza kule kwa street na mahali ingine wenyewe hawachukui zile precaution measures, wenyewe hawachukua tahadhari. Mtu ameuza barakoa siku mzima anafarisha watu kwa uso, yeye mwenyewe anao mkono, yeye mwenyewe ana sanitizer. Tuko sure aje hii barakoa itasaidia yule mtu inafaa kusaidia.
Tom Nyakaba, the Secretary of Clinical Officers in Nairobi County, says to eliminate this dilemma, the state must establish a single channel for their distribution.
If a government is able to give 100 million to our artists, which is a very good move, why can't it first ensure that all Kenyans have masks, because this is what is going to prevent the spread of this disease, which is a very serious disease.
We want the government to ensure that they are supporting them by providing what we have said, the requisite PPEs, and also give them some motivation.
Addressing the press on Friday, the clinicians further urged the government to ensure that isolation rooms are set up in all hospitals to accommodate for patients exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms.
The government must streamline the referral system. We have had several cases here in Nairobi, which actually when you make a call to the number that was provided by the ministry, you keep on being taken in circle. You are referred to Red Cross, you are referred to other bodies, and these bodies want clear instruction from the ministry before they come and pick up the patient.
They also use the opportunity to make a case for the improvement of their terms and conditions as they remain part of the frontline contingent.
The 6 clinical officers who have been affected, most of the time these people are just gone and they are actually booked together with all the other patients without any preferences. With what even happened to our colleague who was infected in Angara, this is quite traumatizing. You cannot keep the injured soldiers together with all the other patients.
For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Well, ensure you have the proper gear to protect yourself from contracting COVID-19. Now, moving on, Easter weekend often marks a time of travel and celebrations for many Christians across the world. But 2020 is not any ordinary year. Amid the COVID-19 pandemic, people all over the world are being asked to practice social distancing and stay indoors as much as possible. There are now more than 1.6 million confirmed cases of coronavirus around the world, with over 101,474 deaths and some 371,858 recoveries.
New cases of the novel coronavirus that emerged in the central Chinese city of Wuhan in late December are being reported daily around the world. Despite signs of progress in several countries, the pandemic continues to take its toll. In the United States, the death toll has surpassed 16,600, with 1,783 new deaths recorded over the last 24 hours, according to a tally by Johns Hopkins University. However, the number of newly hospitalized patients in the hardest hit state of New York has dropped, offering a glimmer of hope as the global death toll inched closer to 100,000. The United Kingdom's coronavirus death toll rose by 881 to 7,978 in 24 hours, even as Prime Minister Boris Johnson was moved out of intensive care but remained in hospital to receive treatment. Meanwhile, new cases in Italy and Spain, the hardest hit countries in Europe,
have continued to level off after appearing to peak, frustrating hopes that the illness was in the clear. Spain has reported 605 new deaths from coronavirus, the lowest daily tally since March 23rd, bringing the total death toll in the country to 15,843, while cases rose by 4,576 to a total of 157,022 infections. Despite the progress, Spain extended its state of emergency until at least April 26th. Meanwhile, the Italian government is planning to extend its lockdown to contain the country's COVID-19 outbreak until May 3rd. This, as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned the UN Security Council on Thursday that the coronavirus pandemic is threatening international peace and security, potentially leading to an increase in social unrest and violence that will greatly undermine the ability to fight the disease. In Africa, there are now over 11,400 confirmed cases of coronavirus across the continent. Less than 2 months after Egypt became the first country in Africa to confirm a coronavirus case, the outbreak appears to have reached 54 countries, with only 2 yet to report a case of the virus, Comoros and Lesotho. Egypt reported 139 new cases, bringing its total since the start of the outbreak to 1,699. In Uganda, 75-year-old President Yoweri Museveni tried to boost morale after outdoor exercise was banned, releasing a homemade video of him exercising in his office. South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa extended the nationwide lockdown by 2 weeks. The lockdown, which started on March 27, was due to last for 21 days. Meanwhile, China has tightened restrictions on exports of masks and other personal protective equipment, calling for shipments of the items to be subjected to a mandatory customs inspection. The new rules mark the latest bid by China to balance the global demand for PPEs to help treat the rising number of cases of the new coronavirus. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
As the coronavirus pandemic continues to devastate the globe, questions as to who is more susceptible abound. But does the disease only affect older people, or are young people as well susceptible?
In the worst cases of COVID-19, the virus not only attacks and destroys tissues in the lung, but also triggers an overreaction of the immune system, creating dangerous levels of inflammation. The question as to who is more susceptible to COVID-19 remains one of the biggest puzzles of the pandemic. According to the World Health Organization, people of all ages can be infected by the new coronavirus. Older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, and heart disease appear to be more vulnerable to becoming severely ill with the virus. In fact, data on COVID-19 fatalities indicate that hundreds of young people have now been killed by the coronavirus. WHO advises people of all ages to take steps to protect themselves from the virus, for example, by following good hand hygiene and good respiratory hygiene. You can reach the Ministry of Health through emergency toll-free line 0800-721316 or through 0729-471414 and 0732-353535 for more information. And you can get more information on COVID-19 by calling 719 or dialing *719# on your phone.
Now, on a separate matter, all LOCUST eradication base camps are to continue operations unhindered by COVID-19 restrictions. Retired Colonel Julius Ngera says LOCUST control centers are exempt as government intensifies locust control measures amid growing concern over food shortage after the pest invaded most farms across the country, leaving a trail of destruction in their wake.
This locust invasion is declared the worst in 70 years according to the United Nations. The voracious insects have a strong preference for gramineous plants such as millet and maize, with experts estimating that the insects are capable of destroying at least 200 tons of vegetation per day.
Locusts have been a problem in Tana North, especially the 5 wards also, like Hermani, Chawele, Sala, Madogo, and the Bangali.
As such, the government has been trying to stem the spread of the locust by, among others, conducting area spraying. However, with the advance of COVID-19 and subsequent confirmation of positive cases here in the country, stakeholders are uncertain over continued efforts against the menacing pest. According to retired Colonel Julius Ngera, aerial spraying of areas invaded by locusts is to continue uninterrupted by COVID-19 restrictions that, among others, limits movement in and out of 4 hotspot counties, as well as a 7 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew. Currently, there are 6 bases in Isiolo, Marsabit, Garissa, Wajir, Masinga and Turkana that also carry out surveillance, monitor and conduct ground and aerial spraying of the desert locusts across the country.
We have trained actually 21 to 25 volunteers to do mapping about locusts, where they are and where they have been breeding, where they are found, where they damage, and all this.
The government is recruiting volunteers to bolster its efforts in eradicating the locust. Regina Manyara Guitar reporting for Channel 1 News.
Now moving on, more than 14 days after the implementation of a nationwide dusk to dawn curfew, a section of small-scale traders within Migori County are now accusing security officers of using the directive to harass them. Now the traders say security officers from both the national and county governments have also been imposing ungazetted regulations on them for the purpose of extorting money through fines.
Open storage stalls and produce strewn on the ground, testament of a struggle that may have happened here. Traders comprising of vegetable vendors, saloonists and barbers in Masara Shopping Center in this Migori market are decrying the level of increased insecurity and what they term as outright vandalism by security officers.
Unafanya kazi, ikifika jioni kila mtu anaenda nyumbani. Afu sitoshe, badala wafanye doria, hawafanyi doria, unakuta ukitoka nyumbani unakuja kupata nyumba yako imevunjwa, vitu vimechukuliwa. Hasa inakuwa ni stress. Inakuwa ni kama mateso.
Ikifika tu saa 8 wanakuja kufuruga sisi na serikali, wanakukamatwa, wanapelekwa pale kwa polisi, na huko wakipelekwa wanasema eti tulipe hela. Tunazanywa tu pamoja kama tuko wengi sana kwa nyumba.
The traders also say that despite complying with government directives of providing hand sanitizers and masks, the county government of Migori still went ahead to shut down their businesses.
Tukiwekewa hivi kuwa tumefunga na hizo mask tumenunua, sanitizer tumenunua, tumekaa nazo kwa nyumba. Sasa ina haja gani? Kwa sababu sanitizer yenyewe ina bei ngumu. Na tumeteseka hadi tumenunua hiyo sanitizer. Hatutumii kwa sababu tumeambiwa tufunge mlango.
The traders, who say they are forced to close business as early as 3 p.m, are now calling on the government to rein in on rogue officers.
Wabaki kwa kila mlango, hata wakifanya patroli, watchman ibaki, wasaidiane. Manake watchman ni security, au pia ni security, wasaidiane pamoja.
At the same time, the local leadership in Narok County has lauded government efforts and mitigation measures undertaken at the county's biggest market. Narok County Assembly Majority Leader Bernard Pasaloi said the closure of Mudhurwa Market for 2 weeks for fumigation to avoid the spread of COVID-19 disease was timely.
Mashauriano baina ya county government na county commissioner, tumeona ya kwamba mikakati sasa imewekwa. Zile soko zilipigwa dawa kabisa na wala wanabiashara wakakubaliwa kufanya ile biashara. Bora wafanye wakitumia ile maagizo ambayo yamewekwa na serikali.
The leader urged traders returning to the market to strictly follow government directives in ensuring a high level of hygiene so that they can continue earning a living during these difficult times. Alan Aoko, Channel 1 News.
And away from that, tension remains high in Kapturo and Kosile villages in Baringo County after one more person was shot dead by unknown assailants, bringing the number of those killed over the past 1 week to 4. The middle-aged man was shot dead in the full glare of his expectant wife, an incident that has seen residents of Bartabo ward flee their homes in fear of more attacks. Details of these and other highlights in the County News Roundup.
It has been testing times for the residents of Batwaba ward in Baringo North following increased criminality in the region. The latest is the killing of a middle-aged man by armed bandits in the presence of his pregnant wife. Helpless villagers from Kapturo and Kosile had to flee to neighboring villages for safety.
Huyu mama alipoteza huyo mtu na huyo mtu ni mmoja kwa mama yake. Akona wasichana watatu na ni yeye mmoja. Na sasa hivi bibi yake ni mjamzito. Na huyu mama amepoteza watoto 3.
A family in Githunguri in Kiambu County is living in fear of possible eviction after a section of their land was fenced off. The demarcation is said to have been done by one of the relatives who is allegedly keen to assume full possession of the whole family land.
Siwezi weka maji hapa, anakuja anakataa tuweke maji. Stima niliweka akatoa. Sasa silimagi hii shamba alikataa nayo. Ukienda kulima kidogo anakupelekea anaendea sigari.
Elsewhere, residents in Gewa Komaiko and Githunguri have called on the government to act swiftly to curb cases of insecurity in the area. The calls coming as a suspected thief was lynched by the locals who accuse him of being part of a gang that has been terrorizing the area residents.
Majirani wakakuja wakamtoa kwa mwili wangu wakati nilikuwa nimezirai. Sasa akachapa na watu wakatokea kwa barabara akachomoa.
And members of the civil society drawn from Turkana County have faulted area Governor Joseph Nanok over his decision to reshuffle his cabinet. Led by Eliud Imeri, the group says the governor should instead have concentrated his energies on dealing with the coronavirus pandemic.
So we call upon the county government to suspend the reshuffles that they are doing so that they focus on preparedness and effectiveness in such a way that delivery is seen on the ground by the common mwananchi.
And it was a relief for traders in Limuru after a market that was under rehabilitation was reopened. Kiambu Governor James Nyoro, however, says the market will only operate below capacity in line with social distance guidelines issued by the government in the wake of COVID-19 outbreak.
Kama vile mumeona kumechorwa, kuko na social distancing, vile watu watakuwa wameachana, kuna mahali ya kuingilia, na kama vile mmeona tumeleta sanitizers na tumeleta masks na mitungi ya maji pale na sabuni.
Finally, over 18,000 people, including those at the Murijanja District Hospital in Kahuru Sub-County of Moronga County, have been left without water after the main pipe that connects the area was vandalized by unknown people at Kiarathe in Kangema Sub-County.
Tuna liaise na county government, nimewaelezea vile mambo iko, hata nimeonyesha picha na tuna liaise nao tuone vile tusaidiana.
Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News Hour.
Now, in the world of sports, Kenya has maintained position 107 in the latest FIFA rankings. There were no changes in the match rankings due to the suspension of all international games after the coronavirus outbreak. Football across the globe has been suspended with no fixed date for its resumption. Harambee Stars drew 2 matches in Group G of the 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against powerhouse Egypt and Togo. The Teranga Lions of Senegal are the top-ranked African team at position 20 globally, followed by Tunisia at position 27, while the Super Eagles of Nigeria complete the top 3 at position 31. Belgium top the rankings ahead of France and Brazil, who are placed 2nd and 3rd respectively. Now moving The Kenya Rugby has cancelled the entire 2019-2020 season with no promotion, relegation or league winners due to the effects of coronavirus. Now, in a statement, the union said all leagues and championships will be annulled and there will be no winners as the season was on the playoff stage. The regular Kenya Cup season had been completed and the season was headed to the playoffs. In a regular season, Kabras Sugar led the standings with holders KCB sitting second with the two sides already qualified for the semi-finals. In the championship, Strathmore University were well on course for a top-flight return after one season in the second tier and were leading the standings by a margin. And Argentine forward Lionel Messi has branded reports linking him with a move in the Inter Milan as a fake news. The Barcelona star also angrily denied claims that he paid for the bail of Barca legend Ronaldinho to be released from a high-security jail in Paraguay. Elsewhere, NBA players are expected to receive their salaries when the next payday for most of them arrives on April 15th, despite no games having been played for more than a month at a point.
America's National Basketball Association, NBA, and the National Basketball Players Association has been in talks for weeks about the status of salaries during the game's shutdown. The last NBA games were played on March 11th, the day that Utah Jazz's center forward Rudy Gobert became the first player in the league to test positive for coronavirus. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said earlier this week that no decisions about the rest of the season, including whether play can resume, would occur before May. Most NBA players are paid on the 1st and 15th of each month. The next scheduled payment comes on May 1st, and it remains unclear if those checks will be affected by the possibility of either shortening the season or have it not resume at all. Elsewhere about the season, the six-time Ballon d'Or winner got into a war of words with sporting director Eric Abidal after the former Barcelona defender attempted to shift the blame to the players for the sacking of manager Ernesto Valverde.
Well, that report brings us to the end of our bulletin tonight. And remember, you can get more details on our website at kbc.co.ke. I do hope you're keeping safe wherever you are. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Lucy Maura. Have a good night.